So my daddy dream was that I was all 13 of you. Maybe that should be the opening segment.
Unbelievable! Touchdown! Oh my, that may be one of the great throws ever made.
Daddy, chill.
Daddies, you know what's better than the NFL season? Actually, nothing. But what is great is not being alone by yourself, being the only daddy around. That would be not a very fun time. And that's what the ass had to deal with last week. He was in the recording studio by himself. He might have gotten drunk. I don't know, because sometimes that's what happens when you're alone. But this week, that is not the case because your commish is here. I know you missed me. I know you got a blog, but what's better than us on the podcast too? And I'm not by myself, which is great. So I'm not getting hammered tonight. But maybe you are. The ass is not either because he's here. And so is the wonderful, you still call him a co-host if we have 3 people? I don't know, but sure, we have Aaron Zitch with us as well. How we doing, guys?
I just want to say I'm blown away that 1, you're here, and 2, do you remember what the podcast? So we use our words mostly. It's good to see you. It's good to have you back. I did miss you guys last week. It was a lonely podcast, and I think I did go through 2 brewskis in the time of recording that.
I was impressed with how long you talked. I saw that it was a solo podcast and it was still 30 minutes. So
it was a bit, I just rambled and
yap.
Yeah. I'm pretty much since I didn't talk until I was, I think, like 9, but then I didn't stop talking after that. So.
And you still don't.
Still? Oh, no.
Daddies, it is officially 1 week into the NFL season, and whether you are happy or not, it is 1 week into the Draft Daddies Football League season. Some of us are really, really excited. I would say maybe 2 of us on the pod, and some of us are not. Some of us are having a tough time. Maybe the other one on the pod. So, I just want to transition us into a new segment, Daddies. We're gonna skip our Malort moments and perfect pours, and we're gonna talk a little bit about some daddy dreams. Okay, we're gonna give you the 3 podcast co-hosts daddy dreams for week 2. These are just things that we're looking forward to seeing in week 2. We're excited to see what comes to fruition. So we're dreaming and thinking about you, Daddy. So my daddy dream for week 2 is I'm really excited to see Caleb Williams and see if he can actually lead a successful offensive drive. Brandon and I sat in Fat Dan's, had a beautiful Italian beef, by the way. Sat in Fat Dan's just chuckling that this man was not doing anything offensively and got carried somehow to a win by the Bears defense. So I'm excited to see what week 2 looks like for Caleb Williams.
So this week, my daddy dream, I think it's who gets arrested this week. Seeing that video of Tyreek kind of get arrested, getting pulled out of his car for, rolling his window back up and all the issues. I saw some similar threads that went on, and it said that, Tyreek went on to have a great game. The last star sport icon to get arrested before he went on to compete that day. Any thoughts here, Daddies?
Scotty
Scheffler. And what did he do? He went out and shot a 66 that day. Just played incredible, out of his mind. Tyreek goes off for 110 yards, something like that, with a touchdown.
You heard the call on that one, right? By the way, he's got getting away from the cops speed.
Well, then did you see the celebration too?
Yeah,
where they put him in handcuffs?
Yeah.
So I think the success here is who can get arrested the day of and still get to the game on time, I think is destined to have a good week.
Great betting odds.
I don't know if you guys have been watching Hard Knocks at all this year. Obviously, being a Chicago Bears fan, I have been. And we saw a glimpse of it last week. Actually, we saw a lot of it because there were a lot of 3-and-outs. But the Chicago Bears, our new Aussie punter, Tory Taylor, so good. And he seems like the kind of mate. I mean, he's been driving on the left-hand side of the road. So my daddy dream, I used my option to choose the first overall pick for CMC, and I have not gotten to see. I didn't get to see him play. We got told all week he was going to. I get the strategy. I'm pissed at the 49ers, but need them to continue to show up. And I'm excited to, fingers crossed, hopefully see CMC play. Maybe he can get me 1 point, because thus far the running backs from the 49ers have given me a big fat goose egg and two L's on the scoreboard, actually, in 2 different leagues. So that stinks, but I'm looking forward to it. Moving past, this is a future-focused podcast. We're done with the blog. That's done and over with. Should we get into some picks this week? I think we should. Aaron, you want to lead us in, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to jump into some predictions for you. So our first matchup that we're going to talk about, we got a week 2 matchup. This is a battle of 2 1-0 teams. Although one of them with a much more dominating performance than the other. It is Sir Cox-a-Lot versus Hot to the Pits on that thing. We got Seb and birthday boy Kirby coming out with a week 2 matchup. And I want to hear from you guys first or how you're feeling about this matchup.
When I'm looking across the board, what really stands out to me are a couple things. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb for you, Kamish, against New Orleans. That you strong wide receiver core-ish comparatively. But Cooper Kupp, with Puka Nakua's injury, Cooper Kupp is just going to see even more utilization. I mean, the second half, the latter part of that game, he was a different man, different beast out there. And I think that just continues. And Patrick Mahomes if Cincinnati continues, now they've done this the last 4 years, where their first game or 3 up to 3 is just god awful. And that's what we saw. So if Patrick Mahomes goes against that same Cincinnati Bengals, I think that this one goes to Sir Cox-a-Lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. I see the Cooper Kupp's numbers. I mean, he was already a great option with the Rams, but now with Puka out, I think that he's going to be in the 12 to 15 target range for the foreseeable future. And I don't think anybody's stopping Saquon after last week. So, I really got to go Cox on this one. We saw last week, some massive kicker numbers out of across the league. And Kaimi Fairbairn was one of them, putting up 50-yarders on the Colts just about every other quarter. So, I think that Cox has just a lot of weapons, really dangerous team. And we saw a really underwhelming Kamish team last week. I think that they did not perform up to their potential. I think that Kamish is relying a lot on potential with this team. Jaden Daniels came out, but he was just about the only one that really showed up. So if Kamish's team can live up to the hype that they have behind all their names, I think it's a closer match, but I still got to give it to the Cox.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the respect. I think now that I'm on the podcast here with you guys right now, I think I got a little more respect. So I don't know if that's a week 1 win or just me being present because, again, there was just a lot of hate when I wasn't around. So appreciate it. Thank you for the words. And to be honest, I see your points. I see Sir Cox-a-Lot looks like one of the toughest teams in the league right now, putting up a lot of studs throughout. Their running back core is incredible. Derrick Henry's only ranked 30th. Out of the running backs, but kind of underwhelming. They said that he's not going to get 30 carries a week. They didn't, bring him in to do that. Saquon, he's the number 1 running back, but can he do that every single week? I think he will be effective, but I do think there's going to they're going to try to utilize that offense a little bit of ways. You got 2 people from that Philly offense. So is Dallas Goedert going to have a week? Is Saquon going to have a week? I think Sir Cox-a-Lot's going to put up a lot of points, but I think I have a chance to do that this week too. Down week last week for me. I understand the Spears hate. I understand the Rachaad White hate. I'll take it for what it is, but I think Marvin Harrison's going to have better weeks. He better have better weeks. I don't think he can have much of a worse week. I think Ayuk will, another week in the system. I think he's going to continue to play better against one of the worst secondaries in the NFL right now. I think I win a close one. I think Jaden Daniels continues to be awesome. So, I got me by a couple points.
Yeah, rookie record for rushing attempts, man. He put up a lot of points on the ground. That's great. Well, let's move on to the other side of the podcast here. Our other co-host, we've got the Assville Amphetamines versus Team Keegs. Keegs, man. Keith came out here and despite his Josh Allen hate, Josh Allen turned out to be QB1 on the week. I don't know what it was, but I kept putting it out there, and everything that I said, the opposite would happen. It was the Josh Allen and the Breece Hall So every time I was saying something was going opposite. So Josh Allen, QB1 on the week, continues to carry Keegs to wins week after week. This is an interesting matchup. I'm really excited to see if CMC plays, like Ass said. I think that this is a really close matchup, but I think that the way that Ramondre Stevenson played this past week, and I think that Breece Hall comes out with a better performance. I was impressed with all of the guys on Keegs' team, aside from the Green Bay offense with Christian Watson. So I think aside from the Christian Watson play, I mostly like Keegs' team. I think that's really dependent on a couple things on Ass side. One, does CMC play? Two, his Isaiah Likely pickup. Is he likely to continue to get the majority of the tight end play for the Ravens? And then what do these two young receivers do? Do they live up to the hype a little bit here? So I think that there's a lot of potential on Ass's side, but I think I like Keegs' team a little bit better. Again, and I'm saying this aside from the flex spot because they're starting. Cut this a little bit. I need to remember his name. They're starting Malik Willis in Green Bay, and Malik Willis is hot garbage. So we'll see how the Colts defense does with stopping him, but I got to go Keegs in a close one.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I'm right there with you. Kind of all the similar points that you made. I think that the receiving core with Devontae Smith, I think he's going to continue to show out, and I think that he might be the most talented receiver in Philadelphia. And I think just matchup wise, AJ Brown kind of had a week last week, but I think Devontae will show out this week. Lad McConkey had the highest target percentage in LA for the Chargers. Again, it's the Chargers, Jimmy's offense, but I still think that he can continue to increase that usage every single week. Josh Allen and Breece Hall, and really Ramondre Stevenson. I saw a stat today that said, wouldn't be surprised if Ramondre Stevenson ends the year with most rushing attempts in that terrible New England offense. I think he's going to get a ton of usage, and I think that's really going to be the difference. I know that Asheville has a really a solid running back core, if not one of the best in the league, especially with David Montgomery still kind of showing that he's still got something in Detroit, but I don't know if Amari Cooper is going to have it. Drake London's a lot of questions in Atlanta, and maybe Jared Goff can have a fight here, but I like Keegs by a couple points.
I'm obviously going with myself on this one, but I agree with many of your points. Being last, there's not much more to say. I think it really comes down to what happens with Josh Allen, and Ramondre Stevenson's going to get points. And I will say the Bears have a decent running back core as it is, like a fair running back core. But the offense did nothing last week. But Tennessee also did a good job of shutting down them on the inside. So how does Breece Hall respond to that? I don't know. We'll see. Lad McConkey, he got, target over target over target. I feel like I heard his name is all day, all day, all afternoon, evening, whatever. So I'm going myself. Who's up next? What do we got next? We got Mr. Chris Boyle. I think, was he last of the week last week? I think he was lowest.
I think this might have been my most disappointing performance of week one, and I'm sure he feels the same way.
Hey, wasn't mad.
Against a full-on daddy, the 106 man himself, allegedly.
But you know what odds are in his favor are his matchup this week. In my opinion, I think this is probably our most one-sided matchup of the week. I think that comeback story, he proved himself in week one. He put up a respectable number, and I think that the Chubb is hurting. The white Chubb is struggling, and it's only week two. We had some duds on this team, and I don't see a lot of movement up away out of the bottom of the barrel here. So, again, I think that Thomas's team, aside from Jalen Waddle's concussion, really was a pretty decent performance. We had across the board pretty respectable performances, and also Brandon Aubrey, one of those kickers that was 20 plus points. So I think that if he can continue to roll with these guys that are going to put up 10, 12 points apiece, he's going to be a consistent 100-pointer. And that wins a lot in this league. And to be honest, I don't see 100 points coming out of the Chubb.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. Unless the only saving grace that I foresee him having would be somebody has to have a huge breakout game, I think, in him to order to win this, and then everybody else has to perform to their expectations. I think he's going to need to he will have to clearly outperform, because I think Thomas is likely good for his 100. So Chris currently at 90, projected 96 right now, maybe has a little bit of movement, but probably not enough. It would just be, I think, a Jalen Hurts, maybe we get some more push touchdowns, because we didn't have a whole lot of that action a lot deep in, and some Saquon Barkley action. So he hogged those touchdowns. That would be kind of the only route right now that I would see for Boylan to pull it off. Unfortunately, he's got Jalen Hurts thrown to AJ Brown, so we get a little bit of a null point there. I appreciate you calling him out. Kickers, right? I always love it. Brandon Aubrey, many points last year. I think Chris had him and also had Dallas's D last year. So he's probably missing him looking from the other side of the bench. So I'm going comeback story if that wasn't clear enough.
Yeah. Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, I struggle. I feel like I want to talk myself into both of these teams. Comeback story had a great job last week. Unfortunately, white Chubb hurts. Maybe if it changed to black Chubb hurts, maybe he'll do a little bit better. But yeah, I look at both of these teams. I do think there's potential for White Chubb Hurts to score a little bit more this week. I obviously cannot score too much less. I think he depended on Chris Olave to score a lot, and I think because they blew out that game, wasn't super involved. But I think going forward, especially this week versus Dallas, he's going to have to be more involved. Unfortunately, it's against a tough Dallas defense. And I look at, again, both these matchups, and I think a lot of these players on both sides are against some pretty solid defenses this week. You got Cleveland involved, you got Buffalo involved, you got Chicago's defense, Dallas and Baltimore, San Francisco. So I do think both of these are going to be a little bit lower scoring this week, and because of that, for some reason I think White Chubb Hurts is going to pull it out.
We got Chicago Dogs and the PP. This could be a fun matchup. We have so many penis references this year.
I know. I gotta love it.
So many, and we're taking them all in a row. We got Chubb on my comeback, and then we've got a wiener and the PP, the year of the PP. So yeah, we got the Chicago Dogs and year of the PP. Aaron, Kamish, why don't you start us first this time?
Again, I think these could be the two highest scoring teams of the week. A lot of potential here. Chicago Dogs, Anthony Richardson looked incredible. James Cook looks like the guy, even though he's not scoring touchdowns against a Miami defense that he should be heavily involved. I think the question is Achane going to be healthy enough this week? His usage was crazy last week. He got some goal line reps. Will he be healthy? I think if he is, I think they could blow away with this. If not, I think it invites the PP into play, because Justin Herbert didn't have a great game last game, and they still put up a decent amount of points last week. 82, okay, yeah, maybe not great. But I think Justin Herbert could be something that gets this team going a little bit. If he has a good showing against Carolina, Jonathan Taylor looked good. I think he's going to have to be a little more. I think the Colts are going to take the lead against Green Bay, and so they're going to rely on Jonathan Taylor to kind of carry that boat a little bit farther. Stephon Diggs scored twice last week. Yeah, I think there's potential both ways here. Again, I think this could be a high-scoring matchup, but I got the Dogs winning this one. They probably should have won last week, too.
I think what is going to swing this in the way of the PP to me, I agree with you on the Achane situation. Like, same as was it last year? It was like the first couple of weeks that he went down, right? It was early on. Kind of a J.K. Dobbins-esque situation with, like, can he stay healthy? Granted, his was a little bit more big picture, but I think so that's one question that for the Dogs, and then the other would be, is Travis Kelce, is he done? Are we past the Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews era? And we're going to see Kelce. I mean, they've proved that they have many targets on that team, and if he doesn't see it, I mean, he's projected 10 points right now. We'll see, because he's going directly up against Rishi Rice. So we shall see what happens with that team. DJ Moore, I would expect he will probably continue to be the number one, because Rome Odunze also, if he is out this week, that'll be Caleb. He's already Caleb Williams' number one guy next to Keenan Allen. I'm going Dogs. I think that Stephon doesn't see the same points. Travis Kelce, the rest I'm real questionable on. So with a healthy Achane,
Yeah,
Dogs.
I can't say much more than you guys did. I think that it really depends on HN. If HN goes, it's dogs all the way, in my opinion. I was impressed with Stephon Diggs grabbing 2 touchdowns against the Colts. I was also impressed with George Pickens' quality of targets and receptions in kind of a not great offense. Didn't score a touchdown in that game, but I think George Pickens has the volume to be a good wide receiver too. So, I think PP has potential here, but this week I got to go dogs.
All right. Doggy, doggy, dog, Victorville, Van Gants, and the G Train Rats. An old Elster Way matchup, boys.
Really interesting one. Neither team came out of week 1 with a win, although I think G Train was really close, and Vic had a decent showing as well. What I was really impressed with out of Vic's team was Lamar's consistency, putting up so many yards on the ground. But also J.K. Dobbins was impressive to me for a guy that I really have written off after his knee injury. I really thought that J.K. wasn't going to be able to do it at all. So I was impressed, and honestly, I was impressed with Pacheco's performance as well. So I am really interested in Vic's team. Now, G-Train, finally, we told him week 1, has given up on Deshaun Watson. Thank God. Deshaun Watson replaced Baker Mayfield, pulls out the number 2 quarterback in week 1 and was riding Glenn's bench. And riding Glenn's bench was another 30 bomb out of Jaden Reed. So I'm interested to see what the G-Train Rats can come up with in week 2, but I'm guessing those guys aren't putting up 30 bombs again. So this week, in a tight matchup, probably around 90 points each, it's going to Vic for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest call out is what you just said. Changes for this team. Baker Mayfield starting. He's got a Baker and Mike Evans stack now, which could be really, really dangerous. Could really, really benefit. Could be really dangerous, or it could be big, low numbers. Low numbers. I'm happy for Glenn for moving on from Deshaun Watson, and just because of that, I like the Mike Evans stack. I'm going with the G-Train Rats.
But yeah, I think the Rats are going to be solid here. I do like a lot of the additions that the G-Train made to his lineup. And the point that you guys didn't make with his starting lineup, 2 of them that I really like actually, is the usage of Bijan Robinson. I think it was expected this year, but it was total Bijan everything last week. And if he continues to get that, with not as much going to the receivers or any other running backs, then I think Bijan can continue to be him, and I think he's going to show why he was top 3 draft pick this year. And then the other one that Blake, I'm surprised you didn't bring up, not kickers but defense. The Chargers defense, which again has Jim Harbaugh there. Anytime I can get a Michigan reference in there, I will. But the Chargers defense looked solid last week. They had a pick 6 as well, and they're going against Carolina's offense, who looked atrocious last week. They looked so bad. I think they gave up a pick 6, maybe 2 of them last week. And so I think the Chargers have the potential to lead G-Train, and that's kind of the reason that I'm leaning that way. For Victorville, I just think there's too many question marks. Again, J.K. Dobbins and Pacheco both played well last week. Dobbins probably should have had 20 more points, but he couldn't go past 5 miles per hour and continues to get caught down. Will he ever get speed before he blows another knee? Probably not. But Victorville's holding out hope.
I love it. I'm gonna go back to my prediction. I think he's gonna be fighting for a playoff position this year. So I think that both of you picking the Rats is a good choice too. But again, I'm going Vic. Our second to last matchup here, I think, has a potential argument for down bad matchup of the week. 2 daddies that have probably the toughest week 1 results. And not necessarily point totals, but just results here. We got the Tarkington Crawdaddies versus the Bald Bison. Bald Bison just coming up just short, barely 0.3 points because of Aaron Rodgers deciding to ride the bench for the last 4 minutes. Huge decision.
Which he's now on the bench for the Bison.
And so we have a full roster change here. We've got Tua, who honestly should have probably been playing week 1. But Tua's in the lineup now. Aaron Rodgers rides the bench just like his his week 1 performance. So
Yeah.
I think that this is a really interesting one. The Crawdaddies have shopped their whole team this week. Shout out to them. I know that the 3 of us have been sending him trades. Nothing coming to fruition yet, but for you daddies out there, I think that Puka Nacua especially is on the trade market. So get out there, send some trades Peyton's way. Interesting matchup here. I like components of both of these teams, but again, I think that there's some struggles here as well. Particularly struggles on the Crawdaddy side. He's got 2 questionable running backs as his running back 1 and 2. We don't really know. We've talked a lot about Achane and his usage. We didn't quite see the same Raheem Mostert this week that we did last year. He only had 6 attempts and 9 yards. So comparably, he was, top 5 running back last year. So can Raheem Mostert keep up his production from last year? It's questionable, just like Kenneth Walker coming out of the game last week as well. So we also saw Joe Burrow re-aggravating some of his injury and didn't have really a great week 1 performance either. Raheed Shaheed relied specifically on a really long touchdown to make his most of his points. He only had 3 receptions on the week. So I'm really interested to see where's the ceiling for the Crawdaddies. And I think that the ceiling is a little bit lower for the Crawdaddies than it is for the Bison. I think the Bison's running backs, very challenged. DeAndre Swift pretty much got shut out last week, but I love what he's got going on with his receivers and his tight end. Sam Laporta, continued to be one of the top tight ends in the league. Granted, he didn't have one of his best performances last week, but I think that he will put up numbers in that Detroit offense. And he told us about Zeke on the goal line. Zeke is still around, stealing goal line touches. So I think that this one, again, with 2 down bad daddies, I think the Bald Bison, I think Bald Bison are taking the victory this week.
Yeah, and I respect Matt for removing the. My write-up went both ways. You know how I feel about the word the, and he removed that. And honestly, I think his team might be better for it. And I think that's going to show this week. Removing that the is just going to release some weights. He's just going with the Bald Bison now, and just being Bald Bison, and no bald players on his team, but he will have a lot of success. I do think this week, leading on to they're hosting Buffalo, so coming down their way while it's not so cold. But really, like the Crawdaddies, to me, I don't see a lot of star potential. I think Kenneth Walker can continue to be good, especially in a week in New England where they're going to probably run the ball a ton. Garrett Wilson looks good when Aaron Rodgers wanted to target him and when he was in the game. But is that offensive line really like up to par in New York? Rashid Shaheed, could he break out? Maybe. Who knows? I'm sure Mark Andrews will play better. I think that's the key one that Tarkington needs to have big weeks going forward. If Mark Andrews can play well, maybe he's into some of these games. I just don't think there's enough there this week, and I think there's too much star potential for the Bison over there.
Yeah, and going back again to lead right from where you were, like Mark Andrews also potentially sharing with Isaiah Likely. It's likely. If not, they might run both of them, but still, I don't know if we see that happen with Mark Andrews. So what I do like is, let me also, like I said, I'm here in Chicago. I'll tell you what, let me tell you what, I'm here in Chicago, and Aaron Rodgers can own this fucking city right where he belongs, on the bench. And huge shout out. And for that alone, I'm going Bald Bison.
Yeah, we're up for the matchup of the week. Matchup of the week. I've missed this. To be honest, I didn't listen to the end of the last podcast by yourself. I kind of got through mine and stopped listening. So I didn't even know who the matchup of the week was last week.
You both swapped it last week. Ass picked himself and Commish picked himself.
Yeah, I think that's my guess is that's what the majority of people do in the podcast. I've even debated putting in chapters for you guys to be able to skip around, but no, I'm going to make you listen at least until yours pops up. Yeah. So,
well, to be fair, I'm sure that's what a lot of people do for the blog too. So,
what blog?
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I actually write those too. But anyways, the matchup of the week this week, I guess if Blake and I both take matchup of the week for week one, it's only right to give the other co-host the matchup of the week. So we got the Presidents, Alvin Kamara Harris, with the Jacksonville Jacks going at it this week. Again, I didn't pick this as matchup of the week, but I do think it's got potential to be matchup. The big question, I think, looking at these two teams right away is what do the Jacks do for their quarterback position? Which I think is the easiest position to pick up on free agents. I think, high ceiling potential quarterbacks has a big benefit, but I don't think you lose a ton, high floor from a lot of those other quarterbacks. James Conner looks like the stud in Arizona. Tyreek Hill, hopefully he gets arrested again. Debo looks like that dude. Komet doesn't look like he can do much, but maybe there's some turnaround there. And Devontae still, is a ball hog, which is, again, good. And Jake Money Moody is leading the Jacks to success. He's the number one kicker last week. He showed that last night. But I think on the President's side of things, he leans on some stars too. CJ Stroud looks really good. I think he showed why he was, predicted to have the year that he is. He had the rookie year that he did. He's not fallen away this year, and he's surrounded by a great cast. Jamar Gibbs, I think, would benefit from finding the end zone. I think later in the season last year, you saw him take over a little bit more for his youth. I think they're going to continue that heavy split in the beginning of the season, so he could kind of fall off right now, but I think he'll be better as the season goes on. Alvin Kamara was freaking the dude last week. He almost won me a bunch of money, but unfortunately did not. But yeah, I think there's, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Tyler Conklin all didn't have great weeks last week, and I think there's potential for them to have huge weeks going forward. Maybe this week. So I do like the President here. I do think this one's going to be super close. I hope there's a Monday Night Football game here out of the two of them, and it goes to the last minute as well.
As I went and played Jack last week, talk about just going off. Like before CMC was out, I thought I even had I had a chance. I was maybe in the game, a long shot, but then it wouldn't have mattered. CMC could have had the game of his life, and I still wouldn't have come out with the win because I think Jack. We talked about it, Aaron, early on. Jack has a strong team this year, and I think that's going to continue to be seen. But you know who else has a strong team? It is you. And I do think that, going back to Jack real fast, when you look at available quarterbacks, and like you said, there's a lot of opportunity. It's the easiest position to probably pick up. One of the lowest, less than 12 points, Bo Nix and Gardner Minshew are both at 12 points projected, which is just obscene for a QB. That means a touchdown, maybe. Granted, Caleb Williams did that last week, but just interesting. Number one out there projection-wise is Justin Fields, but I'd imagine that he's probably going to go in the Matthew Stafford or Brock Purdy area because it gets real wishy-washy after that. So, yeah, for Mr. President, I'm going President on this one too. I think that it would be it's going to be a good matchup, but I think that I think this could be a weak for Jack.
Yeah, and thank you both. I will call out for myself. DK Metcalf and Keenan Allen both had off weeks in week one, but Keenan Allen still had 11 targets and had 2 of those in the red zone, in the end zone, with Caleb Williams. So if Caleb Williams can hit his targets a little bit more, I think Keenan Allen is going to be a 7-8 reception type of guy every week, and will serve well in my wide receiver 2 position. I got to give it to Stroud. Stroud's going to compete day in and day out. So no matter who Jax puts in that quarterback position, I think Stroud takes it. And then my last thing I'll call out is Jackson had 47 points total from his kicker and his defense last week. And that's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. That's not going to happen for many people, ever again. 47 points. So, without that, I think Jax had a couple great performances out of Tyreek and James Conner, and Debo had a decent one. But I think that if Jax isn't having those same boom performances, that he might have a little bit of trouble keeping up. I'm obviously going with myself, so that's three picks for the president, and this is a democracy, so we are president-elect at this point.
Aaron, give us something good to leave on. That's outside of the kisses. Give us something good. I don't know what it's going to be, but give us something.
Really excited to get into week 2 here.
God, I'm so fucking tired. Love you guys. Love you, daddies, so much.
Love you, daddies.
Love you, daddies. Mwah, mwah.
Mwah.
Good night and farewell.